First, I want you to analyze the conflicted thoughts that are constantly being enforced in your mind. Think about that for a second. You might have the positives, but then you have the negatives. And where I feel like most of us are in this stage of life of where we're trying to find what we're meant for. These thoughts that conflict you constantly might be the reason why you can't feel the gap between your potential. How that negative influence just stops you and creates an agreement that you can't make it. And then that's where we get confused and we're like, I don't know what I'm meant for. And so today I want to talk about life purpose. Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Lena Ines, and this is a Frame of Mind podcast, a podcast designed for individuals who are willing to reach their high potential selves, open to wisdom and knowledge, all talk, mental health, mindset growth, and self-improvement. In this podcast, I aim to deliver a message that will help you, motivate you, and one day make you successful. With no further ado, let's dive into this week's podcast episode. In today's podcast episode, I want to talk about how to find your life purpose in this generation. So let's describe our generation right now. If you could think about our generation, you're probably going to think of so many thoughts of how our generation is broken. Something from your part is that you're responsible on how you live, on how you walk your life. And if you're going to walk according to how the generation is living by, then most likely you won't live apart a life from what they're setting themselves into. So we're all meant for a purpose and calling. We're not here to be conformed to the world. We're not here to be conformed by the attitudes, the actions, and the words of the world, but we're here to complete a mission for ourselves. And for me, back then, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I would always say these things. I would be like, I am meant for nothing. At the end of the day, we're going to die. At the end of the day, we're going to retire. Why the heck am I going to put so much of my effort into something that I know I'm not going to value when I'm older? But that's where it comes in. Know how to value life. And it might sound crazy on me just telling you value life, but value doesn't just come from putting a price. Value comes from honoring what's yours. You have to be grateful of what you have. You have to be thankful that you have what others don't. Yes, you need to value your life with gratitude. Without gratitude, you won't feel the fulfillment because you're always going to feel empty. But the emptiness comes whenever you don't know how to put a value on what you have. There's no such thing as empty. You have so much, and it's to be grateful. And sometimes when you start realizing that you're grateful for some things, even if you feel like you shouldn't be grateful for that thing, you're going to start realizing that it shapes you as an individual. Like for me, why all of a sudden I started becoming grateful of why my parents got divorced. Because if it wasn't going to happen to me, who was it going to happen to? Think about it. That decision, that situation was to you. That situation was given to you for a reason, because the universe, the God, knew that you could handle it. And so if you think that there's no meaning, well, there was a meaning in the situation in which helped you develop into becoming who you are now. Let me be honest with you. Living a life according to your purpose kind of seems uncomfortable. And why I'm saying this is because for me, it's like you set apart a path that no one is taking. And when you set a purpose, when you set a goal, it's kind of like you feel this drive, you feel motivated. And with this in mind, like you do so much that you feel like there's so much aside that you wish you could grab. You know, like sometimes I wish I could grab like my fun time, or like, you know, how I see a lot of people like binge watching shows and all of this. I'm a girl that literally binge watches. Like if I want to like binge watch like a show, it's either Shark Tank, the Huberman Lab podcast, or On Purpose podcast, or like a sermon. I don't see myself feeding my soul, my brain with things of the world. If I'm trying to walk in purpose, I'm gonna walk like I want it. I want to walk like I need it. I need to walk like I gotta treasure what my purpose is. I gotta treasure what my destination is. If you're not gonna treasure what was meant to be yours, maybe at the end of the day, it's not gonna be there for you either way. Because sometimes there's a saying that what's meant to be yours won't be taken away. Well, that's the thing. If we don't accept it, it can be taken away. You gotta do a lot of reflectioning in where your values stand and how am I gonna accept what is meant to be mine and open the door instead opening a door that was not supposed to be open. We gotta be able to be aware, be discerning, and realize what's meant to be ours, because sometimes we reject the good opportunities when sometimes we even accept the bad opportunities because it sounds so pleasing. But sometimes what's not pleasing, it's what you need. But sometimes we feel like we are the designers of our own pathway, in which distracts us from taking that step of actually accepting what's meant to be ours, because we want the beauty. We want what's treasuring. When our heart is set to something, it's going to be placed there and you're going to go there. But you're tested with faithfulness. You're tested with loyalty if you're going to accept that with your full heart. Because if you're not going to accept it with full heart, then you were partial to it and that's why you betrayed it. You get it? Kind of going off script, but there was like basically 5 chapters. That's crazy. Okay. Start with a question and everything. So finding your purpose, finding your purpose, finding what you're meant for is a process. It's not something that's easy. It's not something that I could tell you and be like, hey, you're going to be a doctor. Hey, you're going to help millions of generations. No, it's definitely a process, and it was definitely a long process for me, especially since I was so confused on what I really wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to become the FBI agent, or like, for an example, okay, purpose isn't just careers. Purpose is that design meant for you. There's always a purpose with intention in some things. So for an example, relationships with purpose, decisions with purpose. And sometimes we ignore that because we're so blinded with potential. Potential is what we get to embrace throughout years, and purpose is what we get to live through our mission that we're getting called for. Number 1, acknowledging the patterns of where your mind is at right now. And why I'm saying this is because sometimes the influences of why we feel purposeless or there's no meaning in life is because the patterns of inconsistent thoughts, the patterns of having bad habits are the reason why they limit yourself to believe that there's nothing in the world. These bad habits are making you feel less purposeful. Our generation has indulged a lot in social media. I can't lie, I've also fell for that trap, but setting a time limit for me has definitely helped me limit myself in being exposed to things that are not going to feed into me, that are not going to feed into my purpose. And how I'm saying you have to be careful on how you feed on things. A lot of things are our food. We use social media sometimes as our food, which makes us lack any sort of concentration because we had feed on social media. That's one issue our generation has. What our generation is also going through is listening to a lot of false advice. And it's crazy for me because sometimes I'll be scrolling and I just see like this video about advice and it's so twisted and crooked. You're feeding the audience a message that is not gonna, number 1, fulfill them. Number 2, is not gonna make them feel full of life. And number 3, it is false. The amount of times I keep hearing false advice is absurd because people tend to believe it. And when we believe things, our mind are set into that idea. And sometimes what somebody said or what the media says or whatever, a situation that triggered that mindset of you thinking that way is the reason why you get influenced so quickly to believe in things that have formed your mindset. I want you to get this right. Mindset is what your mind is set to believe. Mindset is how your mindset is so complicated. And how your mindset is shows a lot on how your life will be. And you can improve your mindset for sure. It's just your choice. I want you to take like 5 to 10 minutes and just view your life. Be silent. Be quiet. No phone. No distractions. Focus. Because that's the thing. That lack of purpose is not accepting the small advice either. You want to hear the most intense, the most complicated advice, but truly, it's the simple advice that you need. Simple advice like you need to focus. Simple advice that you need to lock in or that you need to be grateful. That's simple advice, and sometimes we ignore that because we want to hear something that just seems right. But that seems right. You're just uncomfortable with the simple. You gotta understand that simplicity is the key to some of your stress, to some of your circumstances, but because of the complicated thoughts in your head, you to construct something so complicated that you must follow, but you shouldn't follow something so complicated if you can't understand the easy stuff. You have to find peace. You need to find joy within yourself and being isolated. And you're gonna start realizing that your soul, that yourself needs more than it has ever needed. Because sometimes we become deprived of our own self. We become deprived, we starve ourselves into these habits, into these ideas. And then when you take time by yourself, 5 to 10 minutes a day, you start realizing that there's so much. And what helped me with this is definitely journaling. Journaling helped me a lot. I would write journal prompts. I'm gonna find some journal prompts that you can copy. But I wrote these journal prompts, and they're kind of like questions to myself. And these questions reflected on how my future is how I want my future to look like, how or what I'm interested in, and what are some things that I would love to do. I started realizing when I set my mind into the vision, started seeing that those dreams, that those visions started reoccurring all the time because of the reinforcing of that idea. You got to reinforce a good future in your mind constantly so it can stick. And then once it sticks, it becomes such like a motive. Our hearts are deceitful. Our heart wants one thing, and then we're probably meant to do something else. Our heart, wherever our heart goes, we have to lay it down. We have to lay down our desires. We got to lay down what we want in our life. And what we want in our life, you got to put it down somewhere. Like I like to put it down on paper. Whatever my heart wants, I lay it down. And I'm like, if this is it, how I mentioned, how it's going to be developed and then it's going to become a desire. Once it becomes a feeling, and then you lay it down, then you start seeing that there's a foundation. Because without foundation, you can't build up. So you got to find a foundation to the purpose. And the foundation is the desire. The foundation is what's your why. So ask yourself that. Why? Why am I here? And it's okay to cry. It's okay to be in it's okay to be in desperation. It's okay to be all of this, because I'm telling you, the ones that seek, the ones will find. So if you want to seek this purpose, you got to continue to put in the work. It's going to be difficult. I can't explain how much of this season in life I was struggling a lot to find this. At this time, my dad left out of the country, and I just felt purposeless. And then I also had a breakup. I also had an eating disorder. Like all of these things, I just felt like I'm not even worth it of having something designed for me. How the heck do other people have it? And I hear a lot of people like tell me like, "Oh my gosh, you seem like you have everything together." I wish I did have everything together, but I really don't. I really don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm doing what my vision looks like. I am doing what my mission is, and that's my why. My why is the foundation on why I'm starting to do these things. So your why is definitely the reason why you should start something. You might have the desire, do it. And it's not because you only live once. Don't YOLO anything. But it's because it's probably designed for you and it's destined for you to start. But you're just closing the door because you don't want to accept it. Stop closing the door. This topic is for a lot of people. The people that closes the door. The people that are always reinforcing the thoughts that they're not meant to do anything in life. This is meant for the people that feel like they need a really complicated answer, really complicated calling. No. Your purpose comes from understanding yourself. You need a relationship with yourself to find your purpose. Finding your purpose is a journey. It's not a give-go assignment. It's a journey. So, if you want to go find that, you got to accept the journey first. You can't get what you're not wanting. You need to want and desire to find your purpose. It has to be that burning desire. It has to burn you alive and be like, yes, I really, 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 really want to find my purpose. And then you're going to start realizing that it's going to be easy to build a relationship with yourself. And how can we build a relationship with ourselves? Well, how I mentioned, isolation. And then exposure. You need to expose yourself to areas in where you feel uncomfortable with. Like, for an example, I had really bad anxiety until I started exposing myself into these social places. That's how I was able to overcome some of my anxiety. I'm still anxious sometimes, but with the social anxiety, I'm okay now. Like, I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to like areas or places, but definitely keep that in count that you need to have exposure. How am I gonna fulfill this? I remember when I started realizing that I was meant to speak, I was so confused. I was like, whoa, is this really my purpose? And you know how I found out it was my purpose? Because of exposure. Because I was in vacation Bible school and I was just speaking. When I was younger, I was definitely very ambitious. And just growing up, I just realized that I kind of aligned a lot of what I did when I was younger now to my purpose. And when I was younger, I definitely taught. I was a speaker. I was always the leader in many things. And with that, building interest in leadership, I just saw that now that I'm older, that I fit so much of what that little ambitious girl was, you know? And I remember vacation Bible school. I was just bonding with the people that were serving the church, and they complimented my speech. They were like, "Oh my goodness, like, you speak full of wisdom, you speak graciously, you speak with intention." And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, like, I felt very, very proud of myself, but I also felt like, whoa, like, God, was that you? Like, I can't believe what just happened. I felt like I was interacting with God and my purpose right there. And when that happened and that occurred, I was just being a little pessimistic. I was recently just getting into faith. So with them saying that, I was just like, that can't be it. Like, there's a lot of more people out there that speak exactly like me, that I was like, that can't be it. What do you mean I am speaking full of wisdom? I was like, that can't be it. Like, there's a lot of other people out here and I don't hear y'all say that about them. And then I talked to God about it, and I was like, God, as a joke, I was saying this as a joke. I was like, God, I want to create a podcast. And it wasn't really for real. I was like, whoa, like, after that conversation, I just felt motivated to create a podcast. And then I saw these other podcasters, and then I saw so many public speakers, so many leaders. I was like, I want to become one of them. And then I kept getting these signs constantly after that moment. And I'm like, God, am I meant to pursue speaking? Am I supposed to pursue leadership? And when that happened, I accepted it. And that's where I started being ambitious, when I accepted the challenge. You have to put yourself in areas where you feel like you're not comfortable, because you don't know if that's the sign that you're needing. And I didn't want to talk about my relationship with God in this section. I just feel like that's very intimate to me. But the fact that the universe has something for you, something designed for you, you just gotta trust, you just gotta align with it, and you just gotta find yourself back to your soul. Discovering is such a fun process, because like you're getting to know your interests, you're getting to know yourself better, and that's what I love about discovery. You get to know yourself a little bit deeper than you ever did. Anyways, guys, I am a little sick. I kind of finished this topic a little short, which I did not expect. I really just had notes here. Guys, I really did not go how I aligned my theme, my script, quote unquote. And I definitely went everywhere, but it went through. You need to find a relationship with yourself first before you find a relationship with somebody else. You got to find a relationship with yourself first before you find the purpose. You got to find the foundation. You got to find the root. That's all I have for y'all today. I kind of ended off this podcast episode a little bit short. I know some of y'all are going to be asking me more questions about this topic. So don't be scared. Don't be shy to send me a DM and, ask me more questions. I will be open to. This is just a little brief explanation over like how to discover it, how to find it for a bit. I know there's a lot more points to it. I definitely have other points. I just didn't add them there. If y'all just want like the small overview, I was supposed to talk about my story, and then these are the tips to find them, like finding your passion, learning from challenges, core values, purpose in action, and then tools of discovery. Which purpose in action, that was exposure. Core values, we talked about that one. We talked about how that's an exercise and journaling, meditation. And then tools of discovery, like mentorship and all of this. There's a lot more to purpose. I definitely would say that this is just the beginning of finding your purpose, and then finding like your why is also a different thing. But there's so much that I did not cover in this episode, but I definitely covered what I was supposed to say, which was find your relationship first within yourself, because no one is gonna be there to love you until you love yourself. Anyways, guys, I love y'all. Make sure to give the podcast a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching. I haven't said that in a long time, but make sure you subscribe. Anyways, guys, I love y'all. Take care. Be on the journey to find your purpose. Don't dismay. Anyways, guys, bye, guys.